Hey everyone, and welcome to this third video in which we are going to talk about retopology in 3D code. Now, this is the very first time I'm making a video about 3D code, which is actually an amazing piece of software in which you can do a lot of painting, tweaking, retopology, UV unwrapping, rendering. It's more or less a full-on suite. So for this, I'm only going to just stick to retopology, but for later videos, I might expand on 3D code. So basically, this is how 3D code is going to look like when you turn it on. So for now, I'm just going to click on close here. On the sides over here, you have a lot of menus, which you can rearrange, but for now, again, we're not going to touch any of these. So for retopology, what you need to do is you need to have a base mesh on which you are going to start building your retopo. For this, I'm going to use the same model that I used for the video for ZBrush retopology and 3ds Max retopology. So if you haven't seen those, check them out. If not, just follow along over here. So what I need to do is I'm going to import, and I'm going to hit this first button where it says model for per pixel painting. So I'm going to click it, and from here I'm going to select my model that I want to use. As soon as I click it, it's going to take just a tiny bit of time. Then it's going to ask you if you want to change anything from the options. For now, I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to just click OK. Now this can take a few moments until 3D code is done with all the calculations for the model that you're importing. But as soon as it's done, you're going to see the model in here ready to be worked on, whether you're doing painting, retopo, or UV unwrapping. So let's just see. And there it is. The model has been imported inside 3D code. The very first thing you would probably want to address here, or that I would have to address here, is the navigation in the UI. Pretty much when you click on the middle mouse button, you can pan the screen around, and if you hold down Alt, you can click and rotate with the left mouse button, and the right mouse button will zoom. So pretty much standard movement for Maya users. Alright, so once you have this, I need to make sure that I have my viewport set up correctly. What I mean by this is sometimes when your view is on, it might have something like a flat shade like this, or maybe it can have something like this, or in some cases it can even show the mesh, the density of the mesh. So this is easily controlled by just clicking on number 1, 2, 3, 4 on the keyboard, or just 5, and you get the flat shade. So I click on the 5, and we basically have our model set. So since this is a retopo video, I'm going to click over here, and I'm going to go in the retopo field. Now the interesting thing is that as soon as you click on retopo, all of the options on this side changed. And that is more or less true for all different types of work in 3D code. If I click on the UV, I get different results. Sculpt gives me different, tweak, and paint. So here we go. All right, I'm going to go back to retopo. All right, so retopo in 3D code is very easy to get into, even if you have never worked with. Basically, you have all of these options on the side, helping you do pretty much all of the retopo work. So for now, I'm going to start with the Add Geometry buttons, and more to the Points and Faces option. As soon as I click on it, now I can go over my mesh, and I can add extra vertices. So similar like in Max, this is doing the same thing. We did the same thing in ZBrush and in Max. The only thing that's different here is that once we add all of these vertices, we don't have to press Shift to connect it like in Max, but rather when we go over here with our mouse button, we get these overlaid edges telling us where we can place a polygon. And the way to add a polygon is just right click, and you get those polygons. But I'm gonna go Control Z a few times, and before I do anything for the retopo, I want to turn on symmetry, because this is a symmetrical model. I want to have it done with symmetry. The way to add symmetry is very simple. You just go over the symmetry and click on symmetry. It's going to open up this window, and I just need to choose the axes for the symmetry. You can have it on X, on Y, or on Z. I'm going to deselect those two because I only need it on the X axis. And you can visually see where the X axis is. And I can just click on Show Symmetry Plane, and this is going to hide it or unhide it. So I'm going to click on Cancel. And now here's what happens. When I come over here, you can see that as I move my mouse, on the left side I have one more vertex looking thing following my move. So when I put in these vertices and I make an actual polygon, I have that on the other side as a symmetry. So that's a very good thing to know before you start making anything. So alright, let's go ahead and make a few polygons and see where we can start from there. So for this, I'm going to go and add in some vertices. Alright, now go over it, right click, and here is the first problem that we can find here. When we make our vertices, if they are not connected to the middle, they are basically going to leave a bit of a gap. We don't want this. So the way to get this to be closer, you can use the brush. So brush is basically going to do this. Now, since if I use it like this, I'm going to click and move it together or move it to the center. As soon as it's to the center, it's automatically going to snap with this one. So now it's one continuous piece. But usually if it's something smaller that you want to move, you can see that the brush here has this yellow circle around it. That is the area of influence. If I want to lower this, all I have to do is hold down the right mouse button and move the mouse to the right or to the left to either increase or decrease the area of influence. So if I need to be more precise, I can have a smaller area of influence and move it around like this. I'm going to go Control Z a few times and go back to points and faces. Now here's the other way to do this. If this is like this, you can right click on where the vertex is while you're in point and faces, and you can directly move that vertex around, as you can see over here. Alright, so let's add in a few more vertices over here. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. Alright, now let's see. Well, let's just add in just a tiny bit more so we have more to work with. This should be enough, I guess. Alright. Alright, so here's the problem. When we start with something like this and 3D Code doesn't know how to connect these, the way to do it is you can choose to take up quads, the option quads. When you're working with quads, what you have to do is select one of the edges here. So once you select it, it's going to allow you to select this vertex and then snap with this one. And now you have this done. So again, this one and this one. This can also be used to manually add in vertices like this. So you select one edge, add in two vertices, two more, and quickly build up the mesh. All right. Now we have some of the mesh present here. We can see one thing, and that is a bit of a problem since not all of the polygons are the same size. And when you have, or when you're doing a retopology, you want to keep the size of your polygons as uniformly as possible because it's going to give you better results when it's deforming. So for this, I can take the brush. Then I'm going to increase the size of the brush by holding down the right mouse button and going to the right. And now I have a bigger area of influence. Now here's the thing. If I want to relax all of this, I need to hold down the shift button. And as soon as I click on the shift, you're going to see this green line going across our area of influence. And that is how much the feather option is going to work here. So while I'm holding down the shift, we're basically getting something similar to the smoothing in ZBrush. So if you've ever used ZBrush, this is basically like smoothing. So I'm going to click, hold down, click, and go over the area. And you can notice that it automatically made all of these polygons more or less the same size. So it relaxed the distance between neighboring polygons. There we go. So that's a nifty thing to remember. The brush has a shift option to it that allows you to go ahead and relax the whole thing. Now, let's continue downwards to, well, not downwards, but we can go and do the arm. Now I can either go and again do the points to faces and try to build up the arm manually, which is not a bad thing, or I can use one of the more interesting options or tools that 3D Code has to offer called strokes. So the way strokes works is a bit interesting, to say the least. So basically what you need to do here is you need to draw in a line. So basically here, if I click and drag, I'm dragging in this line like this, which is supposed to define where I want to have my polygons. Now that is what happens when you place the line on top of the mesh. But if you click outside the mesh and you draw in, you get this red line. And if I go all over on the other side and let go, you're gonna notice something. We have now this orange line going across our arm. I can go Control Z one more time because I really didn't like how it went. There we go, like this. And now we have that line going across our arm. I can click here, put in one more. And let's give it a bit more edges here so it has more to work with. So I've added in these splines that are basically like guidelines. Now these guidelines are directly controlled with this number of segments over here. So by default it's 12. I can put it to something like 16 or 18. And now if I want to see how this thing is going to look, all I have to do is, after I've set the number of segments, just press on the enter. And right away you can see that now the arm has been wrapped around. So basically, just like we did in Max, where we created a cylinder and then tried to make it stick to our mesh, the strokes does that same exact thing. Also, that is if you're going to do it that way. Also, if you have a mesh like this, what you can do here is simply just draw in where you want to have the geometry that you want. And then if you want to have, let's see, these guys going downwards like this. Oops. And here's another good thing to note. If you want to get a straight line, you click, hold down the shift, and then when you're drawing down a line, it's going to be a straight line. There we go. Just make sure you don't... There we go. Just make sure you don't move your hand too much, otherwise you can get crooked lines like this. But once you draw this and you press enter, all the places in which you had lines intersecting with each other are going to create a polygon like this. So a very, very easy and intuitive way of creating new geometry. All right. So since we already showed some of, or the majority of the tools that you can get for quick creation of polygons, we can go over again to point and faces. And now when I'm hovering over any of the edges, if I hold down the control, you're going to see this line appearing, this blue line, that if I click, it's going to add in new edges. So if I click here, we get new edge. So this is basically like the quick or the swift loop option that we have in 3ds Max. All right, there we go. Add in more geometry. And now we have much more to work with. But at the same time, since we made this much more dense, at the same time we have much more to clear. Now if I want to get all of these to be more of the same size, hold down shift and smooth them up together like this. There we go. Much more even. Also, what you can do, except add, is you can go over down to edit geometry, and here you have options to delete polygons, delete edges, or collapse different one, split the rings. So if you go over here, you can split like we basically just did. You can move, you can slide the edges. If, for example, if you want a certain edge moved, you can click and drag just that edge while it's still going to stick to the base. Or you can just hold down control and move the entire edge over here. And let's go down to delete edges. Again, control is going to get everything deleted down that edge. So as you can see, control is pretty much the controller when you're playing with, or when you're trying to add in more edges or more geometry. All right, so I guess that would cover more or less the basics of doing retopo in 3D Code. Since this is the first video I'm doing for 3D Code, as I haven't really done anything previous for 3D Code, not even an introduction to 3D Code, I would probably call it a quit here, or just call it quits. But in the future, I would like to make a few more videos, especially for the UV master we have in 3D Code, because that thing is amazing. But for now, I hope you guys had fun and you managed to learn something new. Hopefully, some of you guys might even consider picking 3D Code up. If you have any questions, leave them below. I will meet you in the comment section of the video. If you enjoyed this video, then please click the like button. And if you're not subscribed, now is a great time to do so. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.